So without further ado, give it up for Denis DiBlasio.
Just going to finish looking through these. How would you like to do this? Mikey, talk, play, any open, whatever?
Whatever you want to do,
Okay.
Dennis, whatever brings to your attention.
All right. Yeah, well, I didn't go any which way. These can go all any way you want. So I'm just going to unpack this stuff in case we need to demonstrate something or whatever. But if anybody has any kind of question at all, just raise your hand because I'm better off answering your questions than, I can certainly go on and on. So before we even start, does anybody have any questions? No? Yeah.
Did you enjoy being on the road with Maynard?
Did I enjoy being on the road with Maynard? Yeah. If you saw him, you knew him.
Yeah.
Just other people would know him longer, that's all. But he was that way. In fact, it doesn't matter if you answer or ask questions because I'm going to wind up talking about the same stuff anyway. but one of the things that kind of got me started on this whole thing, like relationships and practice, well, Maynard was a big part of that. And I remember the very first rehearsal we had, I got on the band. You get on the band by someone recommending you. So I got on the band, and I'll skip a whole part just to get me to it. And it's the first rehearsal, and I didn't meet him yet. And it was at a West Alice Inn in Minnesota, Minneapolis somewhere, someplace up there. And the band is set up, and I just got out of the University of Miami graduate school for arranging and composing. And we're ready, and the guys are there warming up, and I'm looking at the music, and they send you the music ahead of time. But a lot of the music they sent, we never played any of the stuff they sent. They would send it to you. There you go, let me get this down. Good. They send it to you, and then you show up, and then in the book is what's happening. So the very first tune we're going to play, or I don't know, anyway, so I'm sitting there backing, I'm already ahead of myself. So the band guys are warming up and meeting each other. I was new, I had met my roommate Steve Wiest, and we were just getting used to things. Some guys were on the band. So when you get enough new people, he wants to have a run through. So I'm one of the new guys, and I'm looking at the music, and there's this piece called Blue Birdland. It was his opener when he would come out and wave to the crowd. Bop, boo, da, ah, boo, da. So I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, quarter note, eighth note, I can play this. What's the big deal being on this band? Because you're waiting. It's a Buddy's band, Stan Kenton's band. Here's Maynard's band. So I'm looking at the music. It looks like there's 8 notes there. There's quarter notes. I have the Rubank book. I think I should be okay. I didn't know what it was. So then he walks in. He comes through the door just right here and says, "Hey, here's the band." And he's talking to somebody, and he's like he played, real effervescent. He's like, ah, ah, ah. If you ever look at the old Batman show, the Burgess Meredith guy who used to play the Penguin, and he's like, ah, 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 that was Maynard. So he comes in and he's talking to somebody. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, this guy's doing helium. I'm thinking, who is this guy? I'm looking at him, and he's talking, and he's just, "Hi guys, how you doing?" Yeah. Okay, so I'm like, whoa, what's going on? So we count this thing off. And bop, it's G blues. So the band's playing, the rhythm section's playing G blues, and it feels good. I just got out of grad school, and I know what a good band sounds like. I'm thinking, okay, this is okay. So far, yeah, okay. But I'm waiting. Like why is this like a band that's different? Or what is it about playing with a guy like this that's different? So the Barry sits on the end, the rhythm section's over here, he's over here playing, and there's a figure that goes ba 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 da ba 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 da da down, and then I guess he would fill. So I'm playing 8 notes, da da da. I could do all that. da, 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 and this, da, 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 and he feels, he goes, he hits this, I was like, what the hell, what? And I was like, what? And I leaned over to figure out what he played. He played a note. He played a note. And I was like, da, 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 da. The band's playing, it was an E, his E above the staff. All he did was play it. And I was like, whoa, 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 that it had, the sound wasn't just an E on trumpet. It had energy to it. It had sizzle around the sides. It had a real like chord that you could like walk on. I mean, it had all this stuff in it, and it had this happiness, like it had joy to it. It was a pitch. It wasn't even 2 notes yet. It was this. It was a sound that had all this stuff in it. I never heard come out of a trumpet before. Nothing fancy. It's just a high E, 3 ledger lines, which for lead trumpet is like a normal high note. But I had to figure it out because I was like, what was that? And I was like, oh, so that's it. That's what this is about. Every time he plays anything, he's pouring everything he has into it. It's this intent thing. Like you can hear somebody play, and they're good. And then you hear somebody play, and it's like, whoa, there's something going on here. And it's not about fast, or it's not about, I mean, he didn't play 1 note. This guy played 1 note, and it defined to me what that band was about. It's like every time he played anything, he played like he was going to die tomorrow. Like Buddy was like that. McCoy Tyner was like that. I saw Elvin Jones play. It's like, this guy's, you see Buddy Rich, he's not going to live through the solo. and it's not, doesn't always have to be physical. I saw Bill Evans, the piano player, very deep. Jimmy Scott, a vocalist. Shirley Horn, a vocalist. You listen to some people and it's like, whoa, this is so deep. It's almost not for everybody. You know, there's like Bill Evans, he was doing very deep the other way. So at one of the Jamie camps, I don't know who it was, Mike, there was somebody talking about Bill had a birthday party and they were all over his apartment, and Bill has this beat up piano in the apartment. And I think it might have been McNeely or maybe Andy, there were a couple different guys, there were like 5 piano players. And they all played a tune for each other. And then Bill got up, and as soon as he touched the piano, they looked at each other like, what happened? Who? What? It wasn't loud or big. It was like he touched it in a way that they sounded like a grand. And they're looking at each other like, what is that? Where does this thing come from that when these people play, there's something about it that's different? Like the intent. Like what's the intent? Is it joy? Is it sadness? Is it energy? Is it? I mean, we like to analyze it like air and bring the corners in, but it's another thing. So when Maynard would play, you were like, whoa, you couldn't play any less than your best with a guy who was older than you, just meaning everything he played. It just elevated it was a whole thing. And then when we went to small group and I stood this far from him for about 1.5 years, it was just like, it does something to you when you play with someone who pours everything into it. You know, it was a different thing. So being around that was life-changing. But when the rehearsal was finished, I was thinking, do I have it? Do I have the intent to play every note on these pages? Like I'm not going to be here. That's what it was. Because anybody can play that chart. It's not hard. Quarter notes and 8 notes. But, you know, so the greats had that. You know, Sonny Rollins. And it's not always the big, strong, it's the intent. The intent when it means something. There's a vocalist named Jimmy Scott. Jimmy Scott, a great vocalist. He's so deep, it's almost like, he's also not for everybody because he'll talk about something, make you want to cry and break your heart, you know? But when he sings a ballad, it's like, holy smokes, there's something going on here. So that intent thing really kind of messed my head up because up to then I was just learning stuff. I was learning scales and chords and this fits that and this is a substitute chord and blah, blah, blah. But to hear somebody play and to hear like Bill Evans like playing piano, plays a chord and you're like, who turned that beat up piano into it? Bosendorfer, you know, all of a sudden they have this thing. So that always fascinated me with people that you could just hear it. And sometimes you don't have to be I've had students who have come in and played who have that. They don't even know it. Like as soon as they play, it's like, whoa, this is, you have it. You don't even know it. You know, there's nothing in the way of their heart and what they feel and what comes out. And I don't even know, I've been teaching forever, and I don't know how to make that happen other than like be aware of it. So that was one of the things. And Maynard, there's a lot of stories. I put a lot of them up online, and he would give you all kinds of opportunities. I was singing in the flute, and he says, hey, go out front, and I do that flute thing. Yeah. And then if he likes it, you're doing it every night. And if we played around Philadelphia, where I'm from, he would give you more solos. And everybody thought you soloed like that all around the country. And he would adjust it. When we went to Detroit, Tim Reese would get more solos. You know, went to Cincinnati, Matt Harris would get more solos. And everybody in your town thought you were like, star. He made you a star in your own town. It was great. My mother cooked meals for them when the band would be there. She'd make all this food and all that. And he was great like that. And he would, if you could play two horns at once, juggle chainsaws at the same time, he put it in there. As long as you played the music, there's two rules. One rule, play your ass off. Number two, don't be late. That was it. Everything else is, you know, common sense. But if you're late, you can really foul things up. And if you're not playing, but when he plays like that, you can't do anything else, but you can't relax around somebody who plays with that intensity. Like if you imagine playing in John Coltrane's group, playing impressions, and you're just kind of relaxing. Well, but that's what it was. But when you're surrounded with that, you know, and one person can have it. One person can have it. So I always wondered, like, what's the deal with this? You know, how does this happen? You know, how do these great players like play, or what's going on with it, you know? And this whole idea about having a relationship to practice, which is something I really started thinking about the last maybe couple of years, is I got into this thing of like reading about all these the players that are that I kind of grew up listening to. And in Philadelphia, there are a lot of, I was telling the sax master class, in Philly, there's a big population of people who knew Coltrane when he lived there. And they always talk about how he would practice, always practicing. Even when he did a gig, he would go into the dressing room and practice. And you guys know who Bobby Shue is? Bobby Shue, great trumpet player. He was touring with Woody Herman's band. Was he with Woody? Yeah. Was it Woody? He was touring with Woody's band, and it was Woody Herman's band and Coltrane's quartet traveling through Europe. I think like 4 weeks or something like that. So Bobby's saying how in the morning they stayed in this hotel. He got up at like 9 o'clock and he was walking through the lobby, and one of the sax players was in the lobby from Woody's band, and he said, Coach John's practicing in the boiler room downstairs. And he goes, oh, okay. Well, they went downstairs, and there's Coltrane. He's in the boiler room with some jugs of water, a tape recorder. He was in a t-shirt because it was hot, and he was doing his multiphonic thing, where you play two notes at once. So nobody knew what that was at the time. So he's like, what are you doing? And he was working on this stuff. So this is 9 in the morning. So then Bobby goes out, he goes hanging around town, walks around with a bunch of guys. They go see some stuff, they're hanging out, they have lunch. Boom, boom, they come back at like 3 o'clock. Guys are running back and forth in the lobby. He goes, what's going on? He goes, John's still in the basement, practicing this, I don't even know what it is. You know, so Bobby goes, and the whole sax section is on the stairs, because they asked John, can we watch you practice? John, yeah, sure. Boom, all soaking wet. He kept practicing until like I think they had a day off, so he's practicing like 10 at night. So you're talking like he would practice like 11 hours. I mean, on saxophone you can kind of do that. You can't do that on trumpet. You get killed, or like a brass instrument. So they were talking about John. Jimmy Heath is from Philadelphia, and Jimmy Heath said he grew up with John Coltrane. They were really good friends, and he goes, you know, I thought this was great. He goes, anybody can play like Coltrane. All you have to do is practice like Coltrane. Can you practice like him? Because he didn't practice the stuff he knew. He was going for something that he wasn't even sure he was going for. This multiphonic thing, there weren't any rules for that. And he was trying to play it, and you can hear later how he used it, but he was going after something. And for him, someone said this, and this got me started on it. Someone said for John, he was very spiritual, especially after, like around Love Supreme, when he kicked drugs, and he did Love Supreme. And they said when he practiced, it wasn't really, the word practicing has a sound to it. it's kind of not a good word to define how somebody goes after it. But they said Coltrane did, like how Bach, when Bach would write, he would sign it like, to the glory of God, I dedicate this. So everything he would write would be dedicated. Well, somebody was saying how Coltrane would play, and it was like prayer. For him, it was kind of like prayer. So if you look at your practicing as something other than, I'm going to learn this scale, or it's going to be, I'm really searching for something, and this is for like a greater good, and I want to make the world better. Because in interviews with Coltrane, he said, I would just want to leave this world better than I left it. He was very much, he thought that way. So the guys who knew him said he didn't practice like other people practice. He practiced like he was trying to get to some place. He was like searching, like he was on some kind of quest. So his practicing was like a prayer kind of thing. And then Sonny Rollins, they interviewed Sonny Rollins, and he said when he was taking up meditation, he couldn't stop from thinking about music. He was trying to focus on his breath, and he's thinking all this music he listened to, and his meditation teacher says, well, when you play, you're meditating. You don't have to meditate like the other guy meditates. When you play, you're focused. When you play, that's your meditation. And that unlocked him. That made him like, I'm meditating, I'm not practicing. I'm praying, I'm not practicing. So I was asking Maynard, I said, we used to call him Boss. I said, Boss, what do you, when you practice, I mean, you're playing trumpet, so you can't play all day long, but he goes, oh, this is fun, man, this is play. This is a toy. This is the best toy ever. And they're, really? He goes, oh, yeah, man, I'm just having fun like a kid. This is the best toy. The better you get, the more fun it is. For him, it's play. And I was like, wow. So when Maynard's playing, it's a joyous playing thing. When Coltrane's playing, it's like a prayer type thing. When Sonny's playing or practicing, it's like meditation. So these players that play, the reason they can play for hours is because their point of view of what they're practicing is something other than, I'm going to learn Lady Bird or the changes to like B-flat blues or something. Yeah, you're going to do that, but you just keep going and you keep going, and then they have this momentum that doesn't stop. So this practicing thing was kind of interesting. So I actually started to talk to like some of the Ernie Watts about like, how do you practice? You know, not like what's your relationship to practice, because some people do kind of have it organized. And Ernie Watts said he likes to break his practicing down into 3 different things. Ernie Watts, great sax player. He goes, one thing is always work on something that's like scales or chords or a basic, something that works basic material, maybe in a different way. And then the second thing he'll do, he says, I always do an etude, because etudes don't care who you are. So, because etudes, if you're bad in F sharp, key of F sharp, and you play an etude in F sharp, that etude doesn't care about you. You know, and for you to play that etude, you have to really mop up things. So etudes force you into corners that you wouldn't go in. Because when we improvise, if we're coming into a key that's a little tricky, we may like stay away from it or play something that doesn't have as many notes. But when you play an etude, the etude doesn't care. So he says, always play an etude, always drill the basic, and then always improvise on some kind of tune. So he was very organized, where he went through these 3 steps, and those 3 steps could vary. You can have different things at different times. In each one of these steps, because maybe it's a tune I'm working on, and you're working on playing through the tune, or you're working on applying pentatonics to the tune, or any one of the million techniques you can use. But he says it's always drilling a basic, always an etude, and always working on a tune. So he was really organized like that. And then there's this other great sax player, Chris Potter, that when he was interviewed, they say, well, how do you practice? He goes, I'm a lousy practicer. I don't know what I'm doing, which is kind of not true, because he's unbelievable the way he plays. But, well, how do you practice? He goes, I don't have anything organized. Completely opposite of Ernie Watts. And for me, I'm trying to collect these like techniques, and I really needed to hear what Chris said, because sometimes when I'm practicing, I don't have a plan, you know, and I feel like I should. But Chris said, I don't have a plan. I really don't. I just start to play. And eventually, I'm going to land somewhere where I need to work on something. And then that's going to make me, he's going to park on something he needs to work on, but he just starts to play. So you have these guys that look at practicing like just do whatever you want. Other people, it's all real organized. Who's looking at it like play, who's looking at it like prayer, who's looking at it like meditation. but it does become a different thing. If you have like a relationship like that to your practice, it doesn't matter what level you're at. Sometimes just playing, just to feel better, is good, like whatever keeps you interested. Because everybody thinks there's one way, and there isn't. When I started to do these Jamie camps that would happen, Mike did it, Shelley did it, we were doing these camps. When I first was hired, I would walk around and watch how everybody taught. And there's some people who are teaching, who learn, well, you listen to everybody playing, and everybody plays really great. So what's the commonality? Because some people, they'll work on 2-5-1 licks. Other people look at the chord or the scale that fits the chord. Other people don't look at the scale that fits the chord. They look at just the chords. I remember Bobby Shue saying, I look for a pathway through the tune. So I look for like guide tones, linear, and I just try and make something out of those. Other people just will use their ear. Other people would transcribe solos. So it's like a big wheel on a wagon where you have all these different spokes, and they all come into, they are able to play. So I'm thinking, well, what is it that you really have to do? Well, the thing that's common is, what's common with everybody? Well, they're all listening to the music. That's one thing. If you're going to play this music, you have to listen to it. The other thing is, you can play your instrument. So whether or not you started with classical, or you started you just worked your scales, or you had a metronome, or whatever you did, you can play your instrument and you listen to this music. And the third thing that's common is everybody is learning some kind of tune. Everybody's learned to work out whatever they're working on in a format of some kind of tune. Take the A Train, blues, Bye Bye Blackbird, whatever. That was the only three things I could see that were common, because after that, everybody came to this different. Some guy wrote a chart for Maynard, and it said G-Locrian in the chart. And I was looking at it thinking, oh, this isn't going to go well, because those guys don't think like that. And the guys that played by ear and really had great ears, they weren't interested in the names. They needed the sound. You know, the name was just something you could learn. So about 2 weeks before we play, my mother cooks this big Italian meal for like she can't cook for like any less than as many people that are in this room right now. You know, if she made food for 2 people, it would be like for this much, and then we'll have to have foil when everybody takes them home. So we ate, and my mother, she got this Locatelli cheese, really great grated cheese. So when the band was eating, my mother was putting cheese on me, and she goes, "This is Locatelli, this is the best you can get." And I was, thank you, yeah. So he eats it. Now 2 weeks later, we're playing this chart, and it says G. Locrian, and Maynard, at this point, we were hanging out. He was like a big brother. After I was on for about a year and a half, we started to really hang out. And he walks over to me, and he goes, he's looking at the part, and he goes, what is this? What is this? I said, don't worry about it, boss. It's A flat major scale. Just start on G. He goes, I don't know, education, it's ruining jazz. I'll never forget, he goes, I don't like what I'm hearing. I don't like what's going on. He goes, education's ruining jazz. And everybody said that, I started laughing. Anyway, he played the chord, and the guy who wrote it, maybe some of you know his name, so I won't say it, but the guy who wrote it, I don't know why he was trying to vibe the boss. It's a good idea when you have your bosses around. You shouldn't vibe your boss. It doesn't usually turn out well. So after we read the chart, when we got the G Locrian, Maynard played something great over it. It sounded fine. But the fellow who wrote it said, Maynard, when you got to that G Locrian, did you use the G Locrian with the flat 2 or the natural 2? And I was thinking, oh, why are you doing that? You know, and the guys knew too. They were like, what are you doing? What are you doing? He's going to play your chart. So Maynard knew it. I mean, he's so street smart. And he goes, he looked over at the piano player and he said, Locrian. And he looked at me and he goes, sounds like a cheese. With the Locatelli cheese, it sounds like a cheese. That's all he said. And we never said anything else. The writer was always like, So I always thought that the way these great players approach it is like from another thing, you know. Like Buddy, when you would see Buddy Rich play, it was like somebody told me, and I'm not sure if this is true, but Buddy had to get mad to play. It was just somebody's opinion who was out on the road. He said, Buddy liked to get mad before he played, because if he was mad, he played great. He's playing drums. I mean, you watch Buddy play, it's like, what the heck is that? It's like a whole thing. So they're all coming. It doesn't, not everything has to be like spiritual or whatever, but everybody's coming from it who's great. It's coming from it from some place where it's for real in a different way, and it makes their playing different. And it's, you know it when you hear it. Because I was always wondering, what is it when you hear Cannonball Adderley? It's always great. It's always joyous. What is it? I look at it, it's a blues lick. You know, I get it. It's a blues lick. Maynard, I get it. I never heard anything like that in my life. It was an E. You know, I mean, what is that? What's that thing you can't write down? You know, what is how do they get that? What is that? So that relationship to how, like, looking at practice is interesting. And for me, I'm always so curious about that. And when you talk to people who, if you're lucky enough to talk to someone like that, you can get that kind of insight, and then it affects me. Like for me, sometimes I want to be organized. I want to be really organized, like Ernie Watts. And then other times I go through phases, I don't want anything to do with being organized. But it's okay if you're sincere in always going and chipping away at what it is you can't do. That's the important thing. I'm not talking about just going over and over again your thing. To enjoy trying to do something you can't is kind of the trick with practicing or meditating or whatever. You're working towards it. But it was funny. Maynard was play and Coltrane prayer. And I'm not even sure how accurate this stuff is. It's what other people say. You know, in Sonny's interview, he said, as soon as my guru said, this is my meditation, he goes, it all made sense. Everything just fell into place. So that kind of relationship to practice is on like another level. It doesn't really have anything to do with what you're practicing. It has to do with your intent when you go to practice, whatever it is. You know. I don't know, does that make sense? Is that, yeah, I mean, it's not flashy or anything, but it's in trying to figure it out. It's interesting to hear them play. In fact, I just recently, you guys know John LaBarbera. You guys know the Barbers are around here. Well, Pat and John, I just had lunch with John. Pat is a really good friend, and I must talk to him once a month, and I called him up. He's like 80, was he 83, 82?
No, not yet.
No, he's in his 80s.
Well,
Pat.
He's going to call Pat.
Pat,
Yes.
Pat, yeah, Pat.
Yes, he is.
So I call him up, and he sounds terrific. I said, Pat, what are you doing? What are you working on, man? You know, you're in your 80s, you sound great. Are you learning like more licks? Are you learning more patterns? Are you discover like a new scale? What are you doing? You play with everybody, you play with Elvin Jones, and holy smokes. And he goes, I'm into this thing, because he's like a perpetual child. Pat, he's like always into, he just loves the whole thing. He loves it all. So I need to talk to someone older than me that's doing it right. Because there's too many people my age, a little older, younger, that are already depressed and bugged and hate everything. And there's too many of those around. So I want to hang out with somebody who's older than me that's happy. So right, all of a sudden, it's like the world shrinks to like a half a dozen people, right? But Pat's one of these, he's so happy. I go, what are you doing? What are you working on? He goes, well, I was looking at this thing, and Lenny Tristano was working on this thing about playing and being real slow. Like everything real slow, everything slow like a ballad. I said, really? He goes, yeah, like say you're doing Fly Me to the Moon. You're not doing it like Fly Me to, no, you're doing it like Fly Me to the Moon, and improvising at that tempo, and say I'm going to try and connect, or I'm going to try and hit the extensions, or you could say whatever you want, but what happens when you slow down is you're able to, it's like flipping your high beams on at night. You can see further ahead in the tune when you're slow. So you can make some decisions. You could plan, I'm going to work my way through this E7 chord to land high up on A minor. It doesn't matter, but when you play slow, you think different. And he says, it's totally changed my stuff around. I said, no kidding, you're not working on a lick, or you're just slowing everything down. He goes, yeah, slow down and play a tune for like 15 minutes, really slow. Put a click on, or this iReal Pro app, you know that app that's kind of taken over, right? Well, put that on, and I think that will go up to 30 choruses on something. But you put it on really slow and play along with it, and he says, you'll look at the tune completely different. You'll see the tune in big, long sections. You won't see it as like next chord, next chord. You'll see it as big, like resolutions, and you'll just see it differently, because I can't explain it, but it's a thing that Lee Konitz and Lenny Tristano and a bunch of guys would do. And he says, I'm starting to do it. He says, I love it because I use all the stuff I know. I'm not learning anything new, but I'm looking at everything I'm doing in a new way. And then when you go play it in tempo, when you play it faster, all your playing is different. And that changes too. So I'm starting to do that. And it'll work. I mean, it's just always trying to find like a new way to get through some things. So it's really important to keep it fresh and keep it workable and keep it so you're interested. And if I could point out that with just a few things when you practice, you want to leave your practice with something that you, even just one little thing that you can maybe do better that you didn't do. There should be something different after a session, if you want to do that. And if you just want to play and you don't care, that's fine too. But whatever keeps you going with it. But if some people try and pick off a little bit too much, and you're not going to be able to do it in one setting. But this playing real slow thing, real slow, not just slower, but real slow. It takes a minute. It takes a couple of minutes before you can calm down, because you just are like, come on. You want to double time everything. You want to do all this stuff. But he says, if you play like 8 notes real slow, he goes, man, you go to places you never would go if it was faster. So I was like, wow. That's almost like some kind of Obi-Wan Kenobi sprinkle magic dust on it, and everything is different, because that's not even a technique. That's just, well, it's a technique, but it's not something you plug in. It's a way to help your vision, go through. So all this different stuff about practicing, it has nothing to do with what level you're at. But I always thought that these guys that look like, you could just tell that they look at practicing like it's something else, and then when they play, you hear something different in their playing. So I think, and I'm not a doctor, even though I play one, and no, I'm just that. But when I hear somebody who has that thing, it's usually because they view the whole thing as something different. Like when Maynard, Buddy Rich, I've looked at these two guys, when Maynard would play, I'm thinking, this guy's going to die. I'm going to watch this guy pass away one night when he was playing. And then he was all happy, he's like, yeah, that's great. And I'm like, my God, this guy, he loves it like I loved it when I was a kid. When I started playing, it was nothing but fun. Music was just fun. And then you go to college and you get your groups and you hang with this guy doesn't like that. Then you start to not like stuff because you want to be in the group that likes who likes this guy and hates this guy. And then when I got with Maynard, it was like this big Mufasa circle of jazz life. And it comes, you come right back to the beginning with Maynard. It was like, Wynton sounds great. No, Louis Armstrong. Louis was the best. Oh, and I love Bunny Berrigan. Oh, he was the greatest. Oh, Clifford, my God, I loved him. Clark Terry. Oh, my God, he was so good. I said, is there anybody you don't like? You like everybody? He goes, oh, yeah. Yusef Lateef, sax player, flute player. They interviewed him, and he said they played records for him. And he said, I think they may have played something like Kenny G or something for him. He goes, interesting ideas. His ideas are very interesting, and the way he resolves his ideas are interesting. He played somebody else, and they said, and Yusef said, oh, nice sound, very welcoming sound. The sound embraces you. And then he played somebody else, maybe like Ornette Coleman, and he said, what a fresh, interesting concept. And the guy who interviewed, Leonard Feather, was like, Yusef, do you have anything critical to say? And he goes, well, there's nothing critical. I mean, critical is, I stop learning if I'm critical. Because everybody has something to teach me, and that's what I'm looking for. So, Yusef Lateef, sax, he used to teach it, not Hart, that's Jackie McLean. He used to teach it, where did he teach? Where?
UMass. You teach at UMass?
Yeah. And there's a friend of mine who studied with Yusef, and he was a sax player who was going through the mouthpiece thing. That if you're a sax player, you kind of know what that is. You think of this mouthpiece is mine, this is better. Every mouthpiece is the best mouthpiece for 2 weeks. Just like that. Every mouthpiece is the best mouthpiece you've ever played until 2 weeks is up. And so he goes into Yusef, and he says, Yusef, I want you to listen to these 3 mouthpieces. Tell me what you think. And Yusef says, okay. So he puts one on. He says, that's a very wooden sound. It's welcoming. It's welcoming. He's like, oh, what the heck's that mean? Okay, puts it down, puts the other one on, plays it, he goes, oh, that sound has an orange hue. and it has a clue. But Yusef is for real. He's not jiving around. He's for real. And yeah, if you ever spoke to him, you knew you were speaking to somebody who was not about pretending, not about jive. He was the most authentic person. You were just, his pureness kind of messed you up. You just did not want to, you just, you know. And then he plays the third mouthpiece, and Yusef says something like, that sounds like a wellspring of energy coming. And the student's like, he wants Yusef to say, play the auto link. That's what he wants Yusef to say. And Yusef's doing all this stuff. So he says, Yusef, well, I'm looking for, well, which one do you think I should play? And he says, well, they're all beautiful. They all offer something different. You have to decide which one, or, and he said this is messed up, he goes, or, which is not what a sax player wants to hear, he says, or you can continue to enjoy them all. which is not what a sax player wants to hear. That's like keeping you, like, you know, keeping you going. So he asks Yusef, get a load of this. So this is where you really, this is another thing that made me realize that some of these players are coming from just another place. And if you ever listen to anything he does, I always felt there was like a friendliness to it. Anything Yusef Lateef would play, it was never like, oh my God, that's unbelievable. It was always like, ooh, that feels like it's like a good couch. You know, it's like it's just something right about it. So I always felt that, but check this out. So the student with the 3 mouthpieces says, well, Yusef, you tell me all these mouthpieces are good. What are you looking for? Like, what are you looking for, like, in the sound? And Yusef, like he said, he thought for a second, he says, I want my sound to convey the feeling that a mother has holding a child. Link? You know? Is it the auto link? You know, so you have somebody who's thinking about sound like all embracing, like this sound is going to hug you and like bring you in. So when people are thinking like this, they come across like that, you know? And I didn't know any of this until there was a book out that someone wrote about Yusef Lateef, and he's like a name that kind of is under the radar for a lot of people. And many of you, maybe some of you don't even know who I'm talking about. But if you look him up, he had a sound on flute, and I thought, that's what I like about this sound. This sound's giving me a hug. That's why where does that come from? But he was for real with it. He wasn't goofing around with it. He was for real. They're serious about their point of view, about their intent when they're playing. It's more than just, oh, I have to learn this tune. So that's kind of, you know, I'm not even sure if this is a lesson or an observation or whatever, but as I get older, it's less about like the techniques, because you can learn the techniques from a book, and there's a lot of people playing a lot of great stuff. But when you hear that like thing that you can't put a finger on, and it has nothing to do with how fast or loud or whatever, it has to do with this intent, and is there anything in between their intent and the instrument, and when there isn't, you kind of hear it. I don't know, does that make sense? Kind of? Yeah, it's like, it's a thing. It's a thing. There's this great vocalist, Shirley Horn. Oh my God, you listen to her and it's like, oh my God, everything is great now. I feel so much better. And it's just all like, I don't know, it's that intent. I still talk with friends about it, like, what do you think it is? And it's like, you can't bottle it, you know, but you know it when you hear it. I don't know, any questions or any kind of thoughts on that? I'm no expert. I'm not trying to sell anything, but it's like what I've noticed with people. I heard Cannonball Adderley, I thought I was going to lose it. I saw Sonny Rollins live, I was like, I can't believe you're allowed to play the tenor like that. I didn't, huh? You know, and Sonny Rollins, he was a giant to me, and then he speaks and he sounds like, hello everybody. Like his voice is so opposite of how he looks. Like, whoa, wow, Sonny. And it's just so powerful, you know. And some people are powerful with ideas and they're depth. Bill Evans, listening to Bill play a ballad, it was like, holy smokes, this is so like perfect, you know. And they're all coming from some place like that. I don't know, comments, anything? Yes, please ask me something.
You spoke to our group this morning about dynamics. I would love to hear you say a few more things.
Oh, dynamics. Dynamics are, yeah, Yeah, I remember Dynamics. Yeah, well, the thing about Dynamics is they're good for you. They're good for you. They should use them.
Which mouthpiece is that?
Look, I only came with 12. Okay. This is a band, you know, I told you. All right, so, let's see, so. Very good, it works nice. Every year, September, when we get the band over to college I teach at, and we get together, we start reading music, everything's too loud. Too loud. Too loud. Even before they play. You know, before we read the first chart, too loud. You know, well, I didn't play it. Doesn't matter. It's too loud. You're coming off the marching band camp, you're blowing your brains out, and when you play, we did this with one of the, where's the small group where we did the volume thing? Everybody guys around? Okay. So it's kind of like a little bit of a review, but if you play loud, everything comes out flat. I don't mean pitch-wise, I'm talking about articulation-wise. So if I'm going to play just loud like I'm used to on the football field, then it's right, it's just kind of like there. However, if I park myself soft, in other words, I'm soft, and I use that metaphor of Muhammad Ali when he used that rope-a-dope thing where he's like this, and George Foreman's just punching away, and he's just, and he goes bang, 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 and he comes back. Loud, 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 soft. Loud, loud. So if I park where it's soft, and then I let the attacks still be loud, but I come back right away, then the attacks pop, and they come out. You hear the attacks, so what you're hearing is attack. You're not hearing or paying attention to the soft stuff that makes the attack and the soft different. But that's exactly what it is. So what makes the attack pop is how far back, how much you get back here, how much you wrote, but the volume. So if I think I'm soft, now I have a better chance of articulating. So soft is here. That was loud. Well, loud would be, you know, that's loud. It's all flattened out. And boy, you'll be whistling that for days. But if I go real soft, now I'm here. So if I live there and I pop, the pops are going to jump way out. That only happens because I keep going back to this. So home plate for me is here, not out here. You hear, whoa, what you're hearing is the difference. So when we calmed the whole band down, and the whole band got soft, then the whole band started to work as a group, and that's when it was magical. I mean, you guys said all that stuff happened, and you were doing all different stuff, and it allows for things to happen. Playing from the softer side of things allows you to move out and make all these different, you know. That's what it is. If I played that whole thing really loud or really soft, you'd just be like, okay. But what brings you in is the soft, you know. Another? Yeah. So just remember that if everything comes down soft, a lot of stuff can happen. And loud is really just left over from For me, marching band, I need a month to calm my band down in September. I need to break out Sandy Nestico, bassy stuff, and bring the volume way down. Just get everybody used to playing, because they're just used to playing loud. If you're on a football field, you can't play soft, you have to play loud. So, yeah? Thank you. Yeah.
Do you have a practice routine?
Do I have a practice routine? Get out! Yeah. For flute, I have a definite routine, because flute's different. Flute is like the trumpet, where you could play great on Monday, and you could wake up, you could eat something salty Monday, and then Tuesday your lips are puffy and you're pumping gas. It's just that flute will go like that. Flute and trumpet. I always had roommates that were trumpet players, and they would get the mouthpiece. I had this one great player, George Rabbi, boy, he was great, like Clark Terry. He'd get the mouthpiece out, and I remember thinking, oh, let me get out of here. Because that first buzz of the day is going to tell you who that person's going to be for the rest of the day. And if it's a bad buzz, then it's like, so we're like, gets it ready, and he's like, I'll see you later, and it's like wrestling to get it back. Right? So some instruments are that way. For me, the sax, I do other things with the sax. I'll play slow. I like to play the soft. But for flute, I have a routine of just playing. I'm just showing you the routine of really playing soft, because it's just a different thing. Flute and trumpet are like walking a dog without a leash by somebody who's having a barbecue with steaks on the grill, and you're trying to keep the dog with you. You're always saying, come here, no, come back, because it wants to go away. It wants to go away. That's what the flute is, right? Right? The flute is. You sound good on Wednesday, and it's for sale on Thursday. So it's just especially if you like to double and go back and forth. But for sax, I found out that by playing really soft, you have to do everything correct or it doesn't work. So you can play loud and get away with a lot, but if you play soft, your air has to be right or the horn won't work. So soft really forces you, and soft and slow. It sounds so too simple, but it makes you, it kind of trains you. The worst thing you can do is just honk, and maybe you get lucky and play something cool. You learn nothing, and you just got to get established in that. But I always try and do like some kind of, I have seasons where I know I'm going to have a lot of time, so I'll work on a few different things. But what I try and do, and I can't always do it, it's fact, I shouldn't even say I try and do it because I don't always grab it, is trying to do something in every key. Anything in every key, because in jazz you can get key happy, and you don't go, but just even if I just play 1, 2, 1, and I think 1, 2, 1, that's F, G, F. If I did that, maybe I'd take that through the cycle of fourths, like. Just something that forces me through the keys. I mean, that's kind of simple, but it would be something that would be crazy hard. Is that what I did? Yeah. Oh, I already messed it up. Just like a little digital pattern that throws me in different keys. That kind of helps, especially when you're playing something that you don't know. So if you play something, a little chunk, don't worry about a big long lick. Play any little thing in like a cycle of fourths or chromatic, but go through all the keys, and it helps your ear hear intervals. Because a lot of people who could play tunes like in any key, they're not really playing them in any key. They hear intervals, so they can hear, and then their aim gets better. So if I go, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, boom, you all heard it in your head. And that's what happens when you play intervals. If you can hear it in your head and you get your aim, then you can play any tune in any key, because you can hear the next note, and you can go. That's why the all key thing is kind of important, because if you ever play behind a singer and they have a sore throat, boom, they're going to take it down a step, and now you're screwed with your fake book, because do it in D instead of E. Whoa, okay, so all right. But if you're hearing intervals, then you don't think like that. You just think, okay, I hear it, I can grab it, but you have to practice it. It's like an aim. It's exactly like an aim. You try to aim for it. So that's it. But that's a good question. But that I may have a routine for all that. I'll change it. Sometimes I like that Ernie Watts thing. Hearing the, I think the thing to learn from all these different ways of doing things is that you find your way of doing it. You know, everybody does it different, but everybody figured it out. It's even worse in writing. When people write big band charts, I always think, man, all these great writers, everybody comes at it different. They figured it out. So whatever works for you, that's the first thing, you know. And then feeling confident that you're, you know, what you're doing is right, as long as you just keep at it.
Sorry, go ahead.
What would you do to practice intervals for your hearing kind of?
Play Happy Birthday in any key. Play something simple, not so, but hearing in every key. That's, you know, Dizzy used to work a lot of stuff out on piano. He'd work out a lot of theory stuff on piano and then apply it to trumpet. But just playing something simple, you don't have to go crazy. You'll be surprised. Do the Star Spangled Banner in every key. That tune will bang you up. Yeah, the intervals all over the place. They, put it in that sharp, whoa, you know. So it can get wonky, but you have to do that slow. I do that with my students too. A lot of that stuff is slow because if you can hear the next pitch before you try and shoot it. It's a target practice. Hear it, and the better you get at it, the better you'll, you know. We were talking about James Moody and how James Moody, his ear was so good. I had a student said, "Hey Moody, can you play this?" He said, "Oh yeah." Badala plays it and threw it in all keys, you know. And it's like, whoa, just like that. Because once that gets developed, you don't think about keys. You just hear it. Your aim is good. Yeah, you were.
That's exactly. I was wondering if you were hearing the notes and you heard them and then played them.
Well, that's that. You do that really slow, and eventually you're going to miss. I mean, this isn't brain surgery. We don't have to worry about it. Like, oops, you know, we don't have to do that. But it's really, you know, yeah, you know, if you're going to work on your ear, you're going to mess. Yeah, the idea is to mess up, and then keep at it and fix it. But you do it slow. Students don't like slow. Start on that sharp with keys. It doesn't matter. I don't care what key it's in. Just start on anything. Star Spangled Banner, Christmas Carol, anything that they know. It's usually something short. But yeah, you know, keep them coming. Nothing. Yeah. Yeah.
What if the band is...
It's a drummer. Get him out of here.
Hey, I'm from Brooklyn.
There you go. There you go.
Well, as a drummer, if the band is already playing loud, what do you stand up and throw a stick out and go, shit?
Oh, that's who did that? Who did that to Bird? Threw the cymbal at him.
Oh, Joe Simmons?
Philly Joe Jones. Yeah, no, Joe Jones. Well, sometimes it's just loud. Sometimes the bass can be loud. The bass is so far from everything else that you know, kind of sometimes can not hear that it's loud because it's not connected with the horns sometimes. But
I can't do it myself.
No. Everybody has to agree. You can't force somebody. You guys only got soft because they said, let's try it softer. That's all. But I mean, if we did it with the first group, we talked about it, and we experimented a bit, and we played real soft, like just a cut above silence, like that. And first of all, when you're there, you don't even realize you're allowed to be there. I mean, who's playing a tune, you know, just above silence, you know? You know, but you're allowed to do that. It's not like, but then that gives me the options. That's what it is. So you would actually have to, you know, make it a group concept and try something, try it softer, or do like Buddy did, just fire everybody. You know, but no, it is a thing. I have to actually teach my students to play softer, and that it's okay until they get used to it. And they realize, okay, this is where we're going to be. But all of a sudden, the instruments work better. The pitch is better. The sound is better. It's not so, when it's really loud, it gets strident. You know, it doesn't, but to keep it warm, when you have people get softer, the chords resonate better. Everything works better, you know. But it's a thing, you know, things got loud, you know, it depends. But, yeah.
So, like, if you were to go look at those CDs back there, almost, I mean, probably 80% of them are, you know, up to maybe 1967. Yeah, I mean, there's some modern stuff in there, but all the stuff that, you know, we studied, Dexter Gordon, Horace Silver, you know, it's from this golden age of jazz. Can you give some people who are currently recording that you recommend as being worthy of listening to? I mean, I know there's
There's a lot of great people. I think what's happened isn't that it isn't that there are, there's a lot of great stuff going on, but it's everybody doing their own thing, kind of. You know, there are people that will still go out and play tunes and things like that, but, you know, like Snarky Puppy's doing their own thing. Chad is doing his own thing. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. And what happened was, I think, the way I look at the way jazz went, there was sort of a commonality in the language. You know, it came out of like swing, and it was like bebop, and then it was hard bop, then it became like fusion, and all these guys, they all sort of borrowed from each other. But I think it was after Coltrane, because John was really going. John was breaking new ground. They said that John recorded something in January, and they mixed it, and they distributed the thing that finally came out like in April. And you bought it in May, and then you went to go see the band in July. They weren't even playing that stuff. The stuff was changing so much. So they weren't playing that recording all that time. It was changing. And John was like the last, I think, of the guys who influenced the next crop, like Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea and all those guys. They were the beginning of, like, Chick did his Return to Forever, and then Chick did like a couple different projects. Herbie's doing his funk thing, you know, and it became a thing of everybody doing their own kind of thing. So it was like a tree where the main part of the tree was still like, that's why it all kind of sounds. We study that stuff because once it kind of exploded, it went all over the place. You could go Afro-Cuban, my God, you start talking about Ray Barretto or Mongo or, you know, any of the Eddie Palmieri, like all those guys, you know, Tito Puente. That's a whole other branch. And they split up. They have a whole bunch of things. So it went Afro-Cuban, they're still straight ahead, Branford and you know, so it kind of exploded. So it's all good, but it's so all over the place, you know, that now, like today, like everybody's really doing their own thing. They're either playing standards from there if they go to some club or something, or they're writing original tunes. But you don't have I think John was probably the last person that was like a single person that everybody kind of followed. And not everybody followed him either, but people were leading. And John was definitely going, and he just kept going and going, and then he died, and everybody, they were trying to catch up. So when you listen to the stuff he played right before he died had nothing to do with like my favorite things, you know? So it depends on when you listen to it. But I think right now there's so much out there, and I have students coming up to me, telling me like who these people are. Man, I don't know a lot of these people, and a lot of them, you know, they're really young. They just got out of school. Some of them are still in school because of the internet. So there's so much out there. And I don't know. I had a student who loved all this. Like he made up vamps, like bubba da bub, bubba da bub, and he had a pedal and it repeated, and he started soloing to it. And I said, you know what? You should check out this guy, Colin Stetson. Check him out. He does bass saxophone, and he has loops. He does concerts in clubs solo. Bubba da bub, bubba da bub, bubba da bub, and he solos on top of it. He does all. He's done it in a couple movie scores. Colin Stetson, solo, doing his own thing. You know, improvising. So in the sense of jazz is improvisation. I mean, depending on how you define it. But Colin Stetson, check him out. And there's a whole slew of people just doing like their own stuff. So that's where I think we're at now. So that core that we're so used to, everything kind of sprung from that. And so when we teach it, we kind of teach that because that's the language where if I go to Anchorage, Alaska and sit in, we'll probably do some tunes like that. We just had a rehearsal. The concert at 5 o'clock, we had a rehearsal. It took what, 20 seconds to figure out the 6 tunes we might play. Because we're picking from, that's, you know, that's why we learn that repertoire, because we can still work with each other. You know, you can go anywhere with that repertoire. But there are a lot of bands where, like, I couldn't go play in some bands without, like, rehearsing with them and getting the music, because it's, you know. So a lot of people have done their own thing. Yeah. You have to, how are you doing, Mike, with time? What are we doing?
We got a little bit of time left.
Okay. Questions?
Hey,
Yes.
you've been a success in the music business, you know, on a lot of different levels. As a player, you've gotten to play with the biggest names in the jazz.
Well, some, I'm not, I was lucky to play with some, but I'm not like some guys.
So,
Yeah.
so here you are, at this point in life, what are your goals for yourself as a musician, as a person, as you're, you know, standing in the place that you are in your life?
Oh, man, you had to do that. You had to do that. Well, right now, I'm in a, it's funny, I was just talking to John about that. I think Mike, we were talking about it too. I just think there's some things happen as you get older. This camp's unique like that. And we're talking about things here you can't talk about in a high school camp. You know, we're talking about things like, you know, your health, how you hear. You know, if you're a musician and you've been playing this music for a while, pretty much everybody in this room's probably got some kind of hearing issue. You know, because you just can't, you know, your body just, you know, so you start to see things differently. So for me, I'm still teaching. I love teaching, even though the whole culture has changed completely from when I started. But that's okay. I'm still doing it and playing. I'm playing less gigs, but more of the gigs I like to play, because if it doesn't really interest me, I'd just rather not. You really get the sense that you don't have a whole lot of time to do what you don't want. I don't want to do a job in Atlantic City that I don't like, and then when I'm riding home, I feel like I need to take a shower. You know, because I'm like, God, I never want to do that again, because there's a lot of that, you know. So I'm looking for things that are, I don't want to say serve me, but I get some joy from. And, you know, there's a nursing home close to me, and when my dad had Alzheimer's, I used to go and play for the people there. And, like, they loved it, even though, you know, one woman thought I was her son, but she'd love to hear you, you know. Yeah, I played this tune, she goes, oh my gosh, I love that tune, Sorry with the fringe on top, are you my son? You know, I was like, whoa, no, but thanks for the tune, you know. But so I do that sometimes because it just kind of kicks back in a different way. But I want to do things that I really like doing, and most of the time I have to kind of put them together myself, so you become a hustler. You know, you get the players you get together you want to work with, you try and go out and you grab a gig with the people you want to work with. And, you know, trying to find meaning in it. You know, like the same things I used to do mean something different now. You know, like doing this here, like talking like this. I did this a lot for years, but now I'm talking about different stuff. That whole intent thing, I never talked about that ever before. It's just like what I'm noticing right now. You know, how come you listen to something and you're like, what the heck is that? You know, what it went right through your chest, you know, that kind of thing I find like interesting, you know. But I don't know if it really, I think part of it's getting older too, you know, you find a meaning in it more. And you can enjoy this, that's what's great about this, because you guys appreciate this more than you think. You know, it's not almost, it's just experiencing it and having fun and knowing that you can do it. That's why these camps are great, especially these adult-only kind of things. I have a cousin who wants to do exactly this, who wants to have a camp and, you know, just play and not worry too much about the big band part of it, but play and, you know, enjoy it and have fun, and because he loves it. He loves it. He's a radiologist, and all he wants to do, all this guy wants to do is play saxophone. That's all he wants to do. I was doing one of Jamie's camps years ago, and the guy was in my small group, and he really had a ball. He was older than me. He loved it so much. He gave me, I still have it, a photo of Charlie Parker matted with his, you know, thank you so much. It was great. Because every now and then when we teach, once in a while you get students that, you know, they really had a good time, and they'll send you something that's touching, because you don't realize, well, you're hoping that you touch people, but you don't know who you touch. Sometimes you hear from them, most of the time you don't. But when it happens, you're like, wow. So we used to sit around a table like this and have lunch, because we were supposed to eat with all the students. So it's this guy, it's me, and there's like a couple different students, and they're going around the table, saying, what do you want to do when you get older? What the first kid says, I want to be a doctor. This music is nothing to me. I just do it because my parents dropped me off. But I want to be a doctor, and I want to, what do you say? Because I want to make a fortune. Fine, we're eating. Next guy, you know, I think I'm going to teach music. I think I want to do this. I want to do that. Blah, blah. Next person, what do you want to do? Oh, I'm not really sure. Band is fun. I don't know. I'm sure. Get to this older guy. He says, if I had my leg to live again, I'd play. And he looks at the kid across the table. He goes, I'm a doctor. He goes, I'm a doctor. He goes, right now I'm retired, so I do physicals for airline pilots. So he saw, because, you know, he says, but if you're a doctor, get ready to pay malpractice, get ready to get sued, be ready to get divorced, be ready to become an alcoholic. For all the stuff, he goes, that's what you're looking for. He goes, if I could do it again, I'd play alto sax, and they came to me, and I was like, damn. Woo! You know, so, you know, it means something, you know, and here's somebody who really, you know, has been through it all. And afterwards, I talked to him, I said, you're really a doctor? He goes, yeah, I'm a doctor. He goes, phew, and I barely survived it. Like, really? A lot of pressure? He goes, oh, man, everybody wants to sue you. The malpractice alone is enough that you need another job just to pay for that, you know. So I'm thinking, wow, well, we're working on St. Thomas, you know. You can have you can have fun with that. No one's going to sue you if you screw up the bridge. It's only 4 bars, you know. Anyway. Anyway, I thought that was funny. That was in Elmhurst, one of the Elmhurst guys. That was funny. I remember that. Woo-wee. So, questions, answers. You have to keep me in line, Mike. Yeah, no, nothing. Yeah.
Why don't you play a tune for us?
All right. All right. Where's your sticks? You got them? You got your sticks?
No, I have them in the other room.
Where's your room? Upstairs or down? You down?
Yeah, down.
Go. Get your sticks. Yeah. All right. Whew. Yeah. There you go.
Okay, hold my phone back.
There you go. Here's your throne. Here's your snare. Here's your cymbal. There you go. Yeah, you're sitting there. And there's your cymbal. The bass drum, I couldn't get that in here.
Oh.
So, give me for like this. Whatever you want to do.
Hey, the drum set over here.
I like the Maynard thing. It's a toy. The better you get, the more fun you have with it. It really is. It's really good. It's everything. It's all good. It's good stuff.
Thank you very much, combos.